Now, previously, we have seen the first, second, and fourth conjugation in the present tense. And for all these first, second, and fourth conjugation, we had a kind of a common rule that we followed. Let's just revise that. So we saw that we were using these endings. For example, for the first person singular, it was O. For the second person singular, it was S. Third person singular, it was T. Then first person plural, it was mus. Second person plural, it was this. And third person plural, it was NT. And therefore we see that in the first, second, and fourth conjugation, we had clear indicators in order to decide whether it belonged to the first, second, or third, or fourth conjugation. For example, we know that the first conjugation had verbs ending with ERE. Now the second conjugation had verbs ending with ERE, and the fourth conjugation had verbs ending with IRE. And therefore what we did was we just substituted the endings in order to get the first person, second person, third person singular or plural as we needed it. Now we see that there is also the third person, the third conjugation, which is split up into third regular and third IO. Now to add to the further confusion, we also see that these are ending with ERE. So once again we see that now we have three sets ending with ERE. That is the second conjugation, third regular, and the third IO. And therefore this can lead to a lot of confusion. How do I know what is the second, what is the third regular, what is the third IO? Well, we'll take a look at that later, but for now we'll first take a look at the third regular, and then we'll take a look at the third IO, and then finally we'll see how we can in a way distinguish between all these three conjugations. So first and foremost, what we'll do is we shall keep the same chart . So let's keep in mind these endings. Now the additions that we'll have for the third regular and the third IO, I have tried to make a difference. We shall, once we go to the conjugation proper, we'll take a look at it. So let's take a look at the word from the third regular. That is ducere, which means to lead. So therefore, in the first person singular, it would be duco, ducis, ducit, ducimus, ducitis, and duc unt. So as you can see here, duco, ducis, ducit, ducimus, ducitis, ducunt. So what we have done here is, we have taken the word ducere, removed the ending ere and substituted O in the first person, is in the second person singular, it in the third person singular, imus in the first person plural, itis in the second person plural, and unt in the third person plural. And we see that following this rule, we can also use it for other verbs that belong to the third regular conjugation. So let's take another example. Let's take the word petere, which means to aim, to attack, or to desire. So as we have done in the last time, we'll take out the ERE and just put down what is remaining. Now we shall add the other endings. So for the first person singular, we will add O. So we have peto, then we add is, petis for the second person singular, petit for the third person singular, petimus first person plural, petitis second person plural, and petunt for the third person plural. So as you see, remembering these endings is very important in order to properly understand and solve the third regular conjugation. So therefore, in this case here, peto would mean I aim, petis, you aim, petit, he, she, it aim, petimus, we aim, petitis, you all aim, and petunt, they aim. So having seen this, we can now take a look at some of the vocabulary of verbs that belong to the third regular conjugation. Tangere refers to touch. Then you have pelere, which means to drive away. Bibere, to drink. Emere, to buy. Claudere, to close. Premere, to press. Tejere, to cover or hide. Then you have frangere, to break. Then you have canere, to sing. You have noscere, to get to know. You have leggere, to read. Curere, to run. Cadere, to fall. Gerere, to bear or carry. Then you have mitere, to throw. Agere, to urge. Then you have ponere, to place. Then you have relinquere, to leave behind. Then you have vivere, to live. Regere or regere, to rule. Dicere, to say. Then you have cernere, to sift. Then you have credere, to believe. You have scribere, to write. You have descendere, to descend. You have cogere, to compel. Crescere, to arise. Dividere, to divide. And discere, to acquire knowledge. So these are a few verbs that belong to the third regular. As I said earlier, there are many more which you will also find in the dictionary. So what we shall do now is, we shall quickly take a look at the third IO and then try to find the difference between the third regular and the third IO. So once again what we'll do is, we shall keep the same chart in front of us. So let's once again write, take ducere and let's conjugate it. So you have, using the same rule, removing the ERE, so you had, for I lead would be duco, you lead would be ducis, he, she, it leads would be ducit, we lead would be ducimus, you all lead would be ducitis, and they lead would be dukunt. So we see here corresponding to this chart which is there over here. Now let's take a look at a verb from the third IO conjugation. And therefore let's take the word capere. Which means to seize. So what we'll do here is, we'll follow the same rule and we'll remove this ERE and just bring down what is left. Now we see that in the third IO conjugation, there is this additional I which you will find for the first person singular and the third person plural. Apart from them, the rest of the endings are similar for the third regular and the third IO. So let's put the endings. So I seize would be capio, you seize would be capis, he, she, it seizes would be capit, we seize would be capimus, you seize, you all seize would be capitis, and they seize would be capiyunt. Now let's take a look at the basic differences that we have, because this will help us to differentiate between the third regular and the third IO. So first we see that there is this I additional in the first person singular and the I in the third person plural. Apart from that, we see that the rest of the endings are similar. So now with this, let's take another example. For example, let's take facere, which means to make. So therefore let's take a look at the first, second and third person singular and plural. So as we have done earlier, let's take out the ERE and let us put down what remains. And now let us substitute the endings. So for the first person singular, if I want to say I make, I will add IO, facio, you make would be facis, he, she, it makes facit, we make would be facimus, you all make facitis, and they make would be faciyunt. So in this way we see that by substituting the endings, we can in a way find out the third IO conjugation. So now let's quickly take a look at some of the vocabulary of verbs belonging to the third IO conjugation. So you have fugere, which means to flee. Then you have iacere, to throw. Then you have inci pere, which means to begin. Ficere, which means to kill, and cupere, which means to wish. So this is all for the third conjugation, both regular and IO. Now next time around we'll take a look at how we can understand by looking at the dictionary which words belong to which conjugations, and for this we will have to keep in mind the 4 principal parts which we saw in the earlier classes. And this understanding of these 4 principal parts, especially the first 2, that is the present and the infinitive, will help us to understand whether a word belongs to the first, second, third regular, third IO, or the fourth conjugation.